Alright. The Baskervilles. The classic.
It's coming! Sholmes's cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistol as I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared. From the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear. "Look well, Wilson," Sholmes declared, gazing upon the mystical beast. "For this is the diabolical hound of the Baskervilles."
Pretty interested to see how that one's gonna tie in. Our first 2 months in London passed in a flash. In that disconcerting courtroom experience we were first thrown into when we arrived in the country, I'm already fucking it all up. And in Soseki-san's terrible ordeal that had followed closely behind, we had emerged victorious. However, there then came an abrupt end to our opportunities to appear in court, which was hardly surprising, of course, since I was nothing more than an amateur, an unknown student of law from a faraway land. So life in our office was very quiet. That is, until it was shattered one day by that fateful telegram. Naruhodo Consultancy. I thought that fucking orange was hanging off of this stem. That morning, I was woken by the unreserved knocking on the door by the telegram boy. But after he'd gone, Susato-san's behavior became very obviously strange. Is Soseki dead? Yes. Is it time to leave for court already? Let me see. What case is it today? I don't think I'm scheduled to defend anyone at the moment, am I? Oh no, of course not. How silly of me. But I think Iris said she would make us breakfast this morning. So shall we go down to Sholmes's suite? Yes. Iris makes the most delicious breakfast food. She does, doesn't she? And once our bellies are full, we can leave for court in fighting fit form. Let me see. What case is it today? Here we go again. The telegram. So what was it about? The telegram that was delivered. Oh, a telegram? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, but you're not gonna get away with that. Well, I didn't think I would. Actually, don't give it a moment's thought. It's nothing. Nothing interesting. Boring, in fact. It was a boring old telegram. That's 3 times now she's tried to and failed to convince me. I promise that I'll tell you about it at some point. Alright. Weirdo. I suppose Soseki-san will have arrived back in Japan by now. Yes, I should think so. He left immediately after that terrible ordeal. Which would mean he should have completed the voyage already, or be just a few days away. A fortnight ago we had a very long telegram from him, do you remember? Complaining of seasickness. But by and large it seems the voyage has been going well. Is something wrong, Naruhodo-san? I was just wondering what might have become of Soseki-san had he stayed in London, that's all. You mean, as regards Lord Van Zykes, the Reaper? Yes, I can't help wondering if seasickness would have paled in insignificance. The Reaper. What is it they say? That no one's saying. Must we repeat the saying every time we talk about him? The way that nightmarish trial ended on the very day we arrived in London. Even 2 months on, the case of that dreadful fire is still a mystery. Yes, but at least Soseki-san is safely out of the country. Presumably that means that the curse of the Reaper can only take effect within the confines of the city of London? Doubt. Even if that's the case, it's little comfort. I have a terrible sense of foreboding. If the legend of the Reaper is to be believed, he means he wields the sword of justice himself. Come to think of it, I wonder what he's been up to these past 2 months. Surely not wielding that sword against more acquitted defendants. No, I don't think so. Apparently Lord Van Zykes hasn't appeared in court once since our last encounter. Oh. Yeah, since Soseki-san's trial, he's withdrawn from judicial service again, it seems. For now. Just like before, when he wasn't seen in court at all for several years. So it's just been me who's had to face him in his recent spate of trials, then. Ugh, just my luck. I wonder if luck doesn't come into it. What was that? Oh, it's all a setup, sure, why not? Nothing, never mind. Aye, let's mosey, boys. Morning, Runo. Morning, Susie. Good morning, Iris. Ah, Iris. What is it, Runo? What is that terrible noise? It sounds like a cat being strangled. Ah, yes. You noticed that, did you? You killing it, man? Hurley isn't in the best form this morning, it seems. Seems he heard you. Oh my... Hello. Hello, Sholmes. Good morning. A good morning to die, perhaps. Has something happened, Sholmes? You look miserable, and the way you were playing the violin before. My analytical mind is dead. Music is dead. The world is dead. Damn this blanched existence! That's all it is, my dear fellow. Nothing of consequence. Dog! Are you okay? What's going on? I'm afraid I don't understand. Well, Iris, isn't it time we ate? Some dry toast and insipid coffee for me, if it's not too much trouble. Make sure it is insipid, though. I dare not taste any joy. Oh! It's the boy! Look! It's Wagahai. What the Wagahai? Wagahai. Wagahai is a classical way to say I that was used by older men of high social stature. You will find this in the title of Natsume Soseki's famous work. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Good morning, boy. Meow. That must be some sort of tiny door for cats to use. But how did it get there? Wait, what do you mean? Whatever. Well then, everyone, time for breakfast. Oh, wonderful. Let me help you, Iris. Ugh. It would indeed be a fine day to die. I knew something looked different. Oh, what the fuck? How did I not see that earlier? Something is missing from Sholmes' desk. What's going on? You seem to be very unhappy this morning, Sholmes. What's happened? It used to be the case that in my hands, this violin sung like the dawn chorus. Its melissonant tones would make flowers bloom. It would? But now, the muses are unamused with me. The goddesses of music have
thrown me over.
Whatever do you mean, Sholmes?
For hours I have bowed, for days even. Through the night I have endeavored, to no avail. That sound, my tone, is lost. That brilliant, clear, unwavering tone.
Gone forever! No more recitals of unbridled emotion. Well, you haven't been practicing much lately, have you, Hurley?
Don't worry, I'm sure it will come...
Oh, that's not Holmes. Don't worry, I'm sure it will come back to you in time.
Heed my words, Mr. Naruhodo. The goddesses of the arts are fickle. One day they bestow genius on a man, the next they unmercifully withdraw it.
Oh. Dear. Ah! Why is this happening to me? If they take the turn I have for the violin from me, what is left, for pity's sake? What is left? Deduction, perhaps? Sholmes, I don't like to pry, but your desk looks rather empty today.
Ah, well done, Miss Sasato. Your observational skills do you credit.
Oh, no, Sholmes. They pale into insignificance when compared to yours. You'd struggle not to notice, wouldn't you? You mean Hurley's great analytoscope? That's at what? Windy Banks now. Sorry, is it a Windy Bank? No, Windy Banks, the pawnbrokery. Oh, fuck, you had to sell his analytoscope? You mean you pawned that enormous machine?
It has some considerable value, you see, quite undeservingly.
But isn't it a very important machine for your work? I do wish you had consulted us if your situation had become so desperate. I would have gladly passed what little income I have.
Dear madam, things are far from desperate.
But the pawnbroker has your wonderful machine. How can it be anything but desperate?
Making use of a pawnbrokery is quite ordinary here in London, I assure you.
It is? It doesn't sound ordinary at all. It's actually pretty common. We're all very poor in England.
It would seem that neither of you fully understand how pawnbrokering work.
Oh, what's to understand exactly? What do you mean when you said we don't fully understand?
To the people of London, pawnbrokeries are akin to banks.
Banks?
On Mondays, merchants relinquish their finest jackets and trappings to their pawnbroker of choice. With the money they receive in return, they are able to trade happily through the week.
And then on Saturdays, they go to recover their things using the money they've earned. I had no idea. This has been a fascinating lesson for us. Everyone does it, you see, especially people in inner London.
And should they have money to spare, they would purchase another fine jacket. Not to wear, obviously, but to pawn, should the need arise.
Oh, how ingenious. So whenever we have something that's getting in the way, we leave it at Windy Banks, you see.
A pawnbrokery can be thought of as an extremely secure vault.
So I'm guessing a pawnbrokery is about to be very important for this upcoming trial. Who would have thought that even pawnbrokers are different here in London? Of course, you have to watch Hurley with it. Sometimes he pawns things he really shouldn't. Don't you, Hurley?
What does it matter? The world is dead to me now.
Good talk, dog. Mr. Natsume's cat seems to have settled into his new home, then. Oh, yes, and I've become very attached to little Waggy.
It would appear his previous owner is completely forgotten to him. Cats are unfeeling creatures. Their mews as empty as the heart of the muses.
Oh, yeah. If Mitsunatsume had no intention of taking Waggy back to Japan, I wonder why he kept him in the first place. I would expect he would have taken him if he could, but pets are strictly forbidden aboard steamships in our experience. And for good reason. Terrible things can happen if the rules of passage are not obeyed. Well, I don't mind, because Waggy is adorable. Yeah. Yes, he really is. Oh, what about the door? I don't remember seeing that tiny thing in the main door. Where did that come from? Oh, you noticed? You are observant, Runo. Look, I used this. It's my latest invention. This looks dreadfully unnecessary. What? What is that? I call it the Cat Flap-O-Mat. Gosh, a machine for making doors just for cats? That's right, it can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Waggy in seconds. Why, I could turn you into a cat door if I so desired. And it can do it in any door at all, no matter what it's made of. It's very powerful. Wouldn't it have been quicker to just make the cat flap rather than making a machine to make the cat flap? But now the process is automated, you see. We are future-proofing our home. Well, yes, maybe, but now I can make cat flaps anywhere I like. Oh, I think it's wonderful. You must make one for us in the office upstairs. She really knows how to come up with unconventional inventions. Oh, what was that? Wagahai? What the fuck is going on, dog?
What was that?
Oh no, Wagahai's tangled up in your violin. I think he thinks it's a toy. No, what's he doing to it? Oh dear, Mr. Sholmes' precious violin.
Why should I care?
What?
I shouldn't be surprised. If the cat is a more accomplished musician than I now.
Mr. Sholmes really is in poor spirits, isn't he? Yeah, he's really killing my vibe right now. This is terrible. Well, anyway, I'll put it back where it lives, shall I, Hurley? Out of the cat's reach, if possible. Maybe we should assess the damage. I guess I'm looking at the violin. Where's the violin at? Oh, it looks pretty fine. So this is the violin, is it?
It's a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world, made by the renowned Italian luthier Antonio Stradivari.
Oh, I see. It doesn't really look anything special to me.
I happened upon it covered in dust, languishing in a pawn shop down a nondescript back alley. The broker had no idea of its value, so I was able to purchase it for a mere 55 shillings.
How honorable of you.
And until today it has been my faithful companion in every Paganami-inspired performance I have made.
I ask you, is there a reason to live in a world devoid of music, to tolerate this blanched existence?
No, there is none.
Cholmes. What, dear madam? What? My thoughts are preoccupied with fancies of release from this dull routine. Well, it's about the violin. It looks very different to normal, don't you think? What do you mean? One of the strings was broken, I'm pretty sure. Oh, Susie's right. The tone of the wood is completely different. I'm sure there was no crack here before. Wait, it's not even the right size, is it? What's this? I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, Sholmes, but that instrument isn't a violin at all. Then what is it? Just a pretty small cello? I believe it's an entirely different instrument called a viola.
What?
Mr. Sholmes, are you alright?
You're right! You are quite right! This isn't my faithful Stradivarius. So what, pray,
is this piece of stringed flotsam. Not your faithful performing partner, then. Ah, I see what must have happened. You do? This is just a simple mix-up. It sounds like Iris might be able to tell us. Must I engage in conversation? Can't you just do it? What do you mean by a mix-up, Iris? Well, you see, this viola, I mean, was at Windy Banks until last week. At the pawnbroker's, not Mr. Sholm's beloved music partner? There is a proverb from the East with which you are no doubt familiar, my dear fellows. Always let a beloved child travel. Yes, indeed. So you sent your beloved violin to the pawnbrokers in the hope so that it would experience personal growth? What? Of course, Naruhodo, why do you even need to ask? Last week, I pawned my great analytoscope in order to release my precious instrument, but it would appear Mr. Windybank mistakenly furnished me with this tawdry fiddle instead. But my ears cannot be deceived by the humble timbre of this piece of timber. No, but your every sense was deceived by the fact that it had just had strings. Pshaw! A fine state of affairs it is, and as I always say, Mr. Naruhodo, never trust a pawnbroker. They will try to fiddle you every time. This is true. But earlier you told us that you could think of a pawnbroker as an extremely secure vault. Come, Naruhodo, dilly-dallying will get you nowhere. Sorry. Crunching your toast with that vacant aspect, fressing your coffee so obtusely. Are you not a little embarrassed by your own conduct, considering the urgency with which we are faced? We must visit Windy Bank's brokery at once. That's right, isn't it, Sholmes? Precisely, Miss Sasato, without a moment's delay. Right, but I haven't finished my bacon and eggs. My dear fellow, surely you do not still intend to crunch your bacon with an increasingly vacant aspect, to fress your eggs ever more obtusely. Alright, so no more. It would have been more Holmesy to me if he'd just picked up the plate and threw it into the fireplace. Don't worry, Runo, I'd be happy to heat it up for you again later. Oh, thank you, Iris. As it happens, I am rather curious to see what a pawnbroker's looks like. Let's make a move, lads. Wait, why can I go to Baker Street also? I mean, I guess no particular reason. Fair enough. Alright, my immersion did just get broken. No pawnbroker looks like this in England. This is much too organized. So, this is a British pawnbrokery. Oh my, there are all sorts of tools and contraptions in here that I've never laid eyes on. Ah, Sasato-san, and that spark of wonder in your eyes. You can't wait to scour the shelves, can you? I get the impression you enjoy places like this. Oh, yes. I don't know why, but seeing such a lot of things I don't understand is a real thrill to me. My dear fellows, let us not forget why we are here. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. We are calling on matters of business, not pleasure. And clearly Sholmes means business too, judging from the sparks of fury. Ah, Mr. Sholmes! Welcome back! Did you hear that brazen welcome? Well, yes, we are potential customers. We are disgruntled customers, Mr. Naruhodo, and it's time to inform Mr. Windybank of our ire. Come! The fight is afoot. Naturally, you will recall this, which I retrieved from you some days ago. Yes. This second-rate fiddle is not my faithful instrument, Mr. Windybank. The color of the wood is different. It has holes in it. It's not even the same size. A wonderful summary of our observations, Holmes. I'm so sorry, sir. How utterly unforgivable of me, an inexcusable mistake for a pawnbroker. There is only one way to make amends. There he goes. Relax. Calm down. Jeez. Bro, fucking relax. I shall have to take my own life. I don't think that will be necessary, do you? If I may just say one thing before I pop off. Ah, yes? It was you, sir, Mr. Sholmes, who took it upon himself to remove the item the other day, I believe. Sorry? As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard, "Ah, here it is." You did. And when I turned to controvert you, you had taken the violin and left, sir. However, there can be no doubt that the blame lies firmly at my door for allowing you to leave. So I shall not grumble or grouse any longer. May this guilt die with me. No, 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 stop, my dear fellow. The fault is mine. Whew. It would appear the fight is over. I do humbly apologize, Mr. Windybank. Evidently my questionable disposition precipitated this tragedy. Well, you wouldn't be Mr. Herlock Sholmes without that questionable disposition, would you? I do believe you may be right. It's either laugh or cry, I suppose. You are, it must be said, one of my more challenging customers. I needn't remind you of the peculiar collection of items you've brought through my door in the past. Oh, peculiar items? In the extreme, ma'am. For example, the unpublished manuscript of an eponymous work, the novels of Herlock Sholmes or some such. Oh my, a new full-fledged novel? And unpublished? A story I have yet to read? Ah! Forgive me! Wait, before you die, you must tell me. You can do it, but wait a second. I must know more. Tell me everything. Wow, so Sada-san is really fired up now. Is there really an unpublished story under this very roof? Well, one day the gentleman here brought in an old metal chest, you see. I should like to entrust this to your care for a while, Mr. Windybank. For a chest like that, 1 shilling, sir, not a farthing more. It houses something of great value indeed. The latest manuscript recounting the adventures of one Herlock Sholmes. I beg your pardon? A manuscript? You wish to deposit a manuscript? Indeed I do, for I am confident it will be quite safe here. And that was, as such, Mr. Sholmes' latest tale of otherworldly mystery lies dormant in my storeroom. Mr. Sholmes, is that true? Do I sense that someone he doesn't want to talk about this? I continue to pay your fee, do I not? Then kindly continue to store my belongings. Securely. Of course, sir, of course. As safe and sound with me, I assure you on my life. This is all very strange. I wonder, could I ask you something? Ah, a gentleman from the East, I see. Yes, that's sable attire. I suppose I could offer you 6 pence for it. Without wishing to offend, the tone is somewhat dull, I have to agree. Sorry? Aha! But for your splendid attire, ma'am, 5 guineas, no less. The colors are exquisite, the design exotic. Eastern artistry at its finest, may I say. Oh my, 5 guineas. How interesting. Why do I feel as though I've suffered some sort of defeat? Actually, I was hoping to ask you about your business. I heard it said that pawnbrokers are rather used like banks here in London. Yes, sir, indeed. Many of our customers utilize the establishment as you describe. Well, I don't really like this description. Like, I've never known somebody use a pawn shop so that they could store something there with the intention of just, like, it's secure, you know? I've never heard of that before. I praise their items and offer them a proportionate loan and 2 months of secure stowage. And in that 2 months, damn, that's long. If in that time they repay the original sub to me plus the agreed interest, their items are happily returned. But what happens if they don't? You sell it. Then the items are offered for sale in my shop, as you can see on the shelves behind me. So you never sell items before the 2 months has passed. That's right, ma'am, that's right. Which means some considerable responsibility rests on my shoulders. Should a customer's precious belongings be lost, the only recompense is for me to end it all. The very idea, Mr. Windybag, is an absurdity. One should never talk of one's demise so casually, says the man who was telling us all it was a good day to die only this morning. And let us not forget that I have already helped you You take measures to ensure such a tragedy never happens. What sort of measures? I engineered a simple device, which Mr. Windybank installed here in his shop. I call it the Red-Handed Recorder. Is that not so, Mr. Windybank? What was that deep sigh? What on earth is a red-handed recorder? Use your eyes, my dear fellow. There are two just below the ceiling. I can see what appears to be a camera attached to some sort of timing device. Very astute! It is indeed a camera, furnished with some handsome pieces of celluloid film, and every 30 minutes precisely the camera automatically records the appearance of the shop. This is extremely novel. Here, I have an example I can show you. Yes, a print from the camera set to record the activity. I wonder if this is like, they just really wanted to do a case that involved, like, forged footage, but they were like, you know, how are we gonna get around this one? Yes, a print from the camera set to record the activity at the shop counter. I developed a special type of film so sensitive it produces a crystal clear image even in darkness. Really? That's extraordinary. Yes, you can clearly see the counter and the door behind it. So you see, were someone to enter the premises with ill intent, his identity would be summarily exposed. But did you not say that the photographic prints were taken at 30-minute intervals? Indeed, as you say, my dear madam. Then what if the incident were to occur in between times? One could only say that would be a cruel twist of fate. I must confess, your devices have been giving me some cause for distress of late. I beg your pardon, Mr. Windybank. Surely they are causing anything but distressing. Reassuring is the real word. It is the cost of the film, sir. You most graciously placed not one, but 2 cameras in my shop after all, which means I must pay for nigh on 100 utterly useless prints every day. I'm afraid the cost of the film will break me before I'm very much older. So stop buying it? Nevertheless, a small price to pay to ensure the safety of my preferred pawnbrokery, no? My dear fellows, we verge on an age where safety and security come at a price. Oh, heaven help us. Now then, Sholmes, allow me to return your precious violin. Ah, the very thing. Thank you, Mr. Windybank. Perhaps this might mark the end of the peculiar items you try to pop, Because if anything were to happen to one of them, this would be the only answer. I really think you ought to stop waving that gun around. Someone could get hurt. Fear not. Sorry, I've only loaded a single bullet, so no one but myself could possibly be harmed. That's not really what I meant. Also, you could easily still hurt somebody with the 1 bullet. Good day to you, then, Mr. Windybank. It's been a pleasure as always, Sholmes. So, Mr. Naruhodo, now we can explore at last. Okay. So let's see. Look at this! Look at this. What could this lovely big shiny box be? That, my dear madam, is a music box. Surely you have such things in your country. Oh my, yes, but I've certainly never seen one so large. Shall we listen a while? Ah, what a sublime sound. It's like the music of angels. I've never heard anything like it before in my life. This particular specimen is of the larger variety commonly found in public houses and restaurants. There is a metal disc on which the notes need to be played and are recorded. Simply by replacing the disc with another one, any music you care to imagine can be played. My goodness, what a simply delightful machine. Indeed, though their popularity has waned recently with the development of the gramophone, of course. Science and technology advance at such an overwhelming pace. What an assortment of things there are on the shelves here. Crockery, footwear, clocks, watches. Almost anything you care to imagine. Those are forfeited items, of course, offered for sale by the pawnbroker. What does that mean? They didn't come and get it. What the fuck do you mean? When you pawn or colloquially pop an item, the broker loans your money against its worth. He stores the item for an agreed period of time, after which the loan must be repaid. If not, he is free to display it in his shop for sale at a price of his choosing. Oh yes, now that you've explained it, I'm noticing a little price tags on everything. Of course, simply by paying the agreed interest on the loan, one can extend the period of safekeeping. So you may pawn that black garb of yours without fear, my fellow. My treasured university uniform? Never. It embodies my student spirit. Fucking nerd. Nope, nope, skull, it wasn't the skull. There seems to be a little door hidden behind that curtain there. That leads to the storage room, where Mr. Windybank keeps articles that are currently in pawn. Ah, I see. Why would you even observe this? There's nothing of particular interest inside. I certainly wouldn't recommend any larcenous activity. Recommended or not, it's not something I tend to do. There is but one key, and Mr. Windybank keeps it in his pocket at all times. Before he sleeps, he places it into a small pot, which he slides under his pillow. How on earth did you know about that, Sholmes? I'm a detective, sir. It is my business to know. I am frequently assailed by information that I neither care for nor wish to retain. Mr. Sholmes, you are a wonder, and the prime suspect if this pawnbrokery is burgled. What else? Look at that enormous ledger open on the counter there. Mr. Windybank is, if nothing else, very particular about recording the items he accepts. He'd have to be, otherwise he'd get himself into all sorts of trouble, which might explain the thing that catches my eye far more than the ledger. This revolver here. Man, I can't believe Windybank's gonna die tomorrow. Do not entertain even a single thought of pilfering an article herein, my dear fellow. Huh? I assure you Mr. Windybank would not hesitate to draw that weapon, and with a speed belaying his portly size. You don't mean he'd blow his brains out? Indeed, in recompense for his blunder. It's quite a novel way to deal with customers, isn't it, and complaints. But in any case, of course, we would never do such a thing. How could you even suggest it? Let's see, what else? What is this? Now, what do you suppose this enormous machine does? It seems to have two little windows for looking through. Allow me to enlighten you, my dear fellows. What you are looking at is a stereoscope. A stereoscope? Fascinating. It is aptly named, I assure you. Look through the eyepieces and see for yourself. Oh, I should be delighted to. Just before you do, there is something I should point out. My dear fellows, in order to see the image properly, stereoscopically, as it were, you will need to be cross-eyed. However, if that is beyond you, it is of little consequence today. Alright. Yeah, I feel like all of this is gonna be useful in court for some reason, but it seems hard to imagine why. Mr. Naruhodo, you must see at once! Alright then. So I need to be cross-eyed, like I'm trying to look at my own nose. What the? I don't believe it. It's just a photographic print, but it seems like you could reach out and touch it. Yes, the sense of depth is startling, is it not? Stereoscopes are one of London's many fads. They are often found in little stalls in the park. People queue for hours to see them. Why? Why are people meddling with such black magic? It is no magic, my dear madam. It is, well, far too complicated to explain at present. We shall save this lesson for another day. Oh. That's not a calendar you could easily miss, is it? April 15th, today's date. Yes, that's not for sale, I must point out. It's an Eastern-style page-a-day calendar. Every night at midnight I tear off the front page to reveal the following day's date. The perfect calendar for a tearaway fellow such as yourself, Mr. Windybank. And who was it before that walked out of here with the wrong violin? Well, when we agreed storage period has passed without repayment, articles are forfeited, you see. So I have to keep a close eye on the date, if something of a pawnbroker's obsession, you might say. Oh, yes, I can see you're very dedicated to your job. Bam, 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 bam. Ah. Look at this! Whatever could it be used for? One moment, I am sipping. I have no idea. Ah. There's a small catch just here, look. We're going to open it, aren't we? Oh my, that's amazing! It has some sort of spring-loaded mechanism, which we'll never manage to put back in the way it was before. What are you two doing? What? Us? Nothing? No, nothing at all. Whatever this device is, it seems to have a pair of little windows. I feel as though I've seen something rather similar to this elsewhere. Yeah. What? What? Only tuppence for it? That ain't fair, and you know it. The article is barely worth a penny, miss. I cannot offer more. Sounds like there's an argument brewing. Come on, that can't be right. Have you had a proper butcher's at it? I've seen all I need to see, young girl. Don't we know? Yes, it's Lestrade. This young lady from Mr. McGilden's trial. Yes, we remember. Gordon Bennett, you lot. Hello, Miss Lestrade. I hope you've been well. Eh? What? You remember me then, do you? Well, I remember being completely surrounded by smoke. So, what are you doing in here? Down and out like the rest of us? Nothing to eat? Come to pop that black weasel, sorry, coat you have there? What is it about this black uniform that makes everyone comment on it? Ah, good day, unless I'm much mistaken. You would be the young pickpocket who stole our experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. So, you have something of value to pawn, do you? Allow me to see the article and I shall negotiate with Windybank on your behalf. Pull the other one. I don't need no help from some stuck-up D. Get out of my business. Go on or I'll make trouble for you. As you wish, Miss Lestrade. I will happily remove myself from your presence. He's really done it. He's gone. I'm sorry, but as I said, there's really no room for negotiation here. What is that thing he has in his hands? Some kind of metal disc? And you, go on, leave me alone. Oh, Miss Lestrade, just pretend we aren't here. We shan't be offended in the slightest. So Sato-san can really stand her ground when she wants to. Whatever. Just ignore us, but I am about to talk to you. Somehow I didn't really think you were the sort of person who'd use a pawnbroker. Yeah, well, I am alright. I'm a Londoner just like everyone else. That a problem, is it? No, not at all. It's just that, well... Oh, I get it. I know what you're thinking. That thing probably don't even belong to her. Probably got it on the dive, didn't she? Yeah, I can see it written all over you, Chevy Chase. Well, would Chevy Chase have been used at this time? I guess so. Well, what? No. Whatever. Well, I might have been thinking something along those lines. You're not going to deny it, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright then, I'm just going to come out and ask you straight. Do you pawn things that you steal from other people?
Well, I don't know how best to answer that, really.
Suppose, sometimes. You're not going to deny it either, Miss Lestrade?
But not this time, alright? I swear, that thing belongs to me.
The disc that Windybank is holding. Perhaps we should see more what he has to say about it. Watching diligently over his stop, there are still so many things I'm curious about. I don't believe this is time. I thought we were... Okay, alright, whatever. Mr. Windybank, what exactly is this metal disc? It seems to have hundreds of tiny little bumps on its surface. This is a music disc, you see, for use inside a music box. In a music box?
What, you don't even know what a music box is? You Eastern lot ain't savvy, eh?
I don't know what a music box is, I've never seen one of these discs before. The small protrusions on the metal disc encode the tune to be played by the music box. You simply insert the disc and set the machine going, and beautiful music plays. So incredible. Tell us, what tune is on this disc? Well, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you that. There are so many different types of music box, you see. British-made, German, Swiss. I have no way of knowing which particular machine this disc was made for. Well, why don't you put it in the one over there? And that's it in a nutshell. I wouldn't have any customers for an item like this, even if the young lady forfeited it. Really, I'm already offering more than I should at a penny.
That's a packet of lies. He told me he did. He said it was, well...
He? Who?
Never you mind. It just ain't right, that's all. That disc's worth good money. I know it is.
Well, then you'll have to try your luck at another pawnbroker's, won't you?
Oh.
She'd be in trouble she's been in before, of course, this little tatterdemillion? I see. And brought some dubious articles or other with her every time, I might add.
Dubious? What are you trying to say? I'm an honest customer, me.
So, is there something dubious about the disc? Well, if only it were that simple. Sorry, what do you mean? What she actually brought in was a storage ticket. A storage ticket, so Miss Lestrade has actually come to redeem an article?
Yeah, that's right. A girl like me has a lot of stuff what needs storing.
Alright, yes, that's dubious. The article in question would have been forfeited at midnight tonight, but she gave me the ticket for it and repaid both the loan and the interest. I was obliged to return the article to her. But what was the article? Do tell. The little scamp is wearing it, ma'am. It's the overcoat that she redeemed. Oh.
What? What's wrong with that? It fits, don't it? I mean, it's mine, so of course it does.
So, what about the disc then? How does that come into this? The disc is something else, a new article to pawn if the girl and I can agree a price. I'm confused. I thought you said the Miss... Why are you so stupid? It's really quite simple. Yes, the child brought me a storage ticket and the money she owed on it. For this heavy black coat, which you returned to her care, as I understand. That's right, and rather unsurprisingly, as soon as the little ragamuffin put the thing on, she went rifling through the pockets. Oh, you mean...
What? Don't you know it's rude to stare at a lady?
Ah, I see. So it came from the pocket of the overcoat, did it? If you mean this disc, then yes, exactly, ma'am. And she immediately tried to pawn it, for a high price as well.
Give it up, I'm just trying to pawn something like anyone else would.
Miss Lestrade, may I ask who deposited the overcoat here?
Well, me.
It doesn't really appear to be your size.
Me old man's alright.
Is it Miss Lestrade? Yes, this is definitely all rather suspicious. Is it? Really? Out of my way, please. Oh, yeah, look at this guy. Fucking JoJo's character's just walked in. Who's this picture postcard English gentleman? Good day to you, ladies, gentlemen.
What's your problem?
There is no problem as long as you remove yourself. I have a matter to discuss with the proprietor. And if you intend to make a problem of it, I shall see you outside, little girl, for the hiding you deserve.
Look, ain't it obvious? I ain't done talking with him yet. If you think you're such a gent, you should know how to wait in line.
Well, you are an impudent little brat, aren't you? As well as a pickpocket.
Who are you? How do you know who I am?
The question is, how do you not know who I am? You haven't the courtesy even to remember the faces of your victims, it seems.
What? You mean, from you?
Broker. Yes, sir. I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes. The article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Oh my.
Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull?
Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel. And needless to say, any music box discs, too.
No, you can't have it. You just can't. It's me old man's, or it was. Now it's mine.
Goodness, Mr. Naruhodo. This is a very awkward situation. Yes, I think perhaps we should hear both sides of the story. Miss Lestrade, is what the gentleman is saying...
What do you think? It's all lies, ain't it? Obviously. I swear on my life, I ain't never laid eyes on that dandy before.
Let's hear it now, you little ragamuffin. You stole it, didn't you? The ticket you brought in was stolen.
No, I swear it. I swear to God.
It was barely an hour ago. I was walking along the street, minding my own business, when this little gutterling ran into me. I knew at once what had happened. I've been robbed yet again, I thought to myself. These wretched pickpockets. Yet again? Oh yes, as you can see, I'm a man of impeccable style. This isn't the first time that I've been targeted by these back slum scoundrels. Now then, relinquish my overcoat. Come along, Miss Lestrade, give the good gentleman his coat back. If you're going to cause trouble, I shall have no choice but to call the police.
Hold on, why does everyone think it's me? Just look at this dandy cove, and you think I'm the dodgy one?
I'm sorry, but no one's going to believe you. I believe you.
Well, what about evidence? Yeah. Where's your evidence that I've stolen something? Now, come on, let's see it.
Oh, I have evidence, naturally.
You what?
Evidence that the article Miss Lestrade redeemed actually belongs to this gentleman. Of course, we need only consult Mr. Windybank's ledger. We'll be able to look up the name of the person who deposited the article. Yes, brilliant. I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Oh? I never ask customers' names. That's a strict policy of mine. But why not? Well now, as you can imagine, some of my customers have circumstances to consider. A great many of them prefer to maintain their anonymity. Yes, I see. But then how can you know if an article belongs to the person? They bring the ticket. It's quite simple. Good sir. Might I trouble you for the watchword associated? Oh, this is elaborate as well. Of course, it's... Professor. Yes, that's right. All the evidence we need. This man is the rightful owner of the article, without doubt. A watchword. Interesting. So, about these watchwords. As I just explained, I never ask customers' names when they deposit items. There are many reasons why. Why certain customers would like to keep their activities secret. That wasn't exactly a subtle glance. Great detectives have no dark secrets, none at all. Yes, well, anyway, that's why I always ask for a watchword whenever I accept a new article. In many ways, it's like the secret combination of numbers used to unlock a vault. The date of deposit, a description, and a watchword uniquely identify each item. And of course, when I give the storage ticket to the customer. When someone comes to redeem something, I ask for the ticket and the watchword. And if someone tells you the correct watchword, you return the article. So then she also knew the watchword, or you wouldn't have given it to her. That's right, sir, yes, just as soon as the requisite fee is paid. And I have supplied you with the information you require already, but for the avoidance of doubt, the article in question is an overcoat deposited 2 months ago on 15th of February. With a watchword of Professor. All perfectly correct information. But how? Really, this is beyond a joke now. There is no further room for doubt. Ugh. Alright, so now we're going to talk to you. Excuse me, but who are you? One would expect the inquirer to introduce himself first. Though clearly you are not British, so perhaps our ways are foreign to you. Oh, sorry, yes, we're from the Empire of Japan. We're studying here. Oh, yes, Japan. I've heard talk of the place. Its inhabitants live on some fiery, brown-colored soup, dressed up with exotic spices. You might be thinking of somewhere else. What was that theatrical? Yeah, it's pretty over the top. Perhaps. Anyway, if you are a gentleman, sir, you offer your name first, before inquiring after the name of another. Of course, yes, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a lawyer, or a student of law, really. My name is Sato Mikatoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's assistant. I see. My name is Benedict. Yes, Eggert Benedict. Uh-huh. And enchanté. He's so refined in how he holds himself and how he speaks, but that name is suspicious. Now, to the matter at hand. Bro, calm the fuck down. My overcoat. Return it at once to someone with the style to carry it off.
Gah. Every move he makes, every breath he takes, I can't stand watching him.
It doesn't really go. So, will let that be an end to the matter. And thank you for your custom, Mr. Egbert Benedict. With such reasonable rates of interest, I may even decide to come back.
This is why I hate grown-ups. Just 'cause I'm a diver, everyone thinks me a liar.
And the contents of the coat pocket, if you please, broker. But of course, sir, here is the disc. Just this one? Pardon, sir? I was expecting another. That is, I deposited another disc. Oh dear. I regret to inform you, sir, that what was deposited with me was merely the overcoat. The disc happened to be in one of the pockets, but I was completely unaware of it until now. So, gutterling, you're hiding more of what's rightfully mine, are you?
Who says who, eh? I don't know nothing.
Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style.
Wait a minute. That disc is mine.
Oh, shit.
Ah! What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal.
Oh my, yes, there's blood on the disc. It's because of all those sharp little bumps. The man must have scratched his finger on them.
I found it first, alright? I mean, it belonged to me old man, so you're not having it. Or you take it.
Me?
If I hang on to it, they'll have it off me again, so you keep hold of it.
Mr. Strahd, why is this disc so important? You there, in the black livery. Hand that disc to me at once, please.
No, don't. He's lying. Grown-ups are all lawyers.
What do I do now? How am I gonna resolve this? I mean, I'll keep it. Wow, Mr. Strahd is really looking daggers at that mysterious gentleman. We need to do something to calm things down before she loses control and attacks him again. Look at those piercing eyes. He's clearly in no mood to talk. We have to do something quickly before this mysterious gentleman leaves to fetch the police. Okay. What do you want me to do, exactly? Oh, right. Sholmes! 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 What are you examining with such keen interest there? As you enjoy a bar of caramel, I see.
So, you found me at last, Mr. Naruhodo.
Sorry?
After that young pickpocket sent me on my way, I was forced to lurk in the shadows, cruelly ostracized as the rest of you partook in the jovial atmosphere of fellowship. I had nothing to occupy my mind, but was too ashamed to let society see what my downfall had done to me. So feigning mock interest, I pretended to examine the tedious trinkets in this desolate place, whilst, as you shrewdly observed, gnawing on the only friend I have left, this 7% solution of caramel.
Pray, do you claim to understand the depths of my despair, Mr. Naruhodo? But how could you? I was so lonely, so desperately lonely. Then why on earth didn't you rejoin the conversation? Things have gone from bad to worse. Yes, I have heard much of your conversation, or rather in my craving for human contact. My ears devoured every word that was uttered. You really were sad, weren't you? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I feel simply awful. It would seem that my inferences are correct. Oh, surely you're not about to tell us that you've solved the case once again. My dear madam, sometimes I wonder, were my genius for deduction to be commoditized? That's how much could I pawn it for? It seems Sholmes has had another of his flashes of inspiration, but who knows if this will help resolve the situation. What's the right? Listen to the deduction. Well, Miss Lestrade, it would appear you find yourself in something of a predicament.
Just where the blazes have you been, eh?
Pardon?
When a lady's in trouble, a true gent's supposed to be there to help straight away, not an hour later.
A harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Egbert Benedict. You have, in my eyes, a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon. The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is in contemplation, one you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. Well, Mr. Benedict, what say you to my deductions? How? He's turned as white as a hard-boiled egg. It would seem that once again, Mr. Sholmes has made a flawless deduction. Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah, yes, as I hoped. This is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Sherlock Holmes's logic and reasoning spectacular. The Great Deduction. Topic 1. Mystery Man's aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you have ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. Oh, he's one of the circus people, is he? As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to the shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement for this very shop. Yet, even the most unobservant would soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such employ. In other words, there is an ulterior motive for your actions. The cane, which you have unwittingly clutched to your person, exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot. I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the Missing Furl. The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal furl to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows the hidden tip of this stick to be utterly bare. Therefore, there's only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is that truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would rather like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle? Mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. No, that rod. What the dog? I don't know about that. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined this undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motivation for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the grounds beneath the premises. Holmes. Where did that come from suddenly? What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. Damn. Sholmes makes some leaps, but holy shit, dude. Great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose I would expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose. Save for that such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I would have hoped. What? Let us consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath its floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works that to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewerage works, beneath this shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway. That flows in very close proximity to the great vault of the financial institution opposite. What are you... In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us to the last and final chapter of this lurid scheme. With that what plunder did the thief hope to make off with from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us what we all need to know. Postcard of the Great Exhibition. I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vaults of the bank on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime that you have been contemplating is the theft of that which sits in the vault of that bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes's great deduction of this pawnbrokering puzzle. Mr. Sholmes. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, an impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness, would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over in the road and what's in its vault? Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Gregson told me it's in the strictest confidence, which I have immediately betrayed. But you just announced it to everyone here, quite loudly in fact. Ah, and if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be one explanation for that. Clearly it is because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he is a criminal, as you said, then buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you've revealed the secret. Oh! Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Windybank will. He already has plenty of shovels. On my life, I assure you I'm not so unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost care. Honestly, how could Mr. Naruhodo just reveal to everybody what was in the vault next door? It's unbelievable, isn't it? You really have to work on that. One can never be sure that someone privy to its secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Sholmes. An excellent idea, Naruhodo. An excellent idea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to that great deduction again. Very well then, let us start once more, from the beginning of Sherlock Holmes's magnificent logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Alright, yep, Let's get through there, So, by Mr. Sholmes's reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motive lies elsewhere. The question is, where? What did bring Mr. Benedict here at this particular point? It's on the... Oh! There's a note. Well. What's going on back here, buddy? Oh, look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer. I don't believe it! What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade. Height, 5'2". Green cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, ragged. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness. There's even a sketch of her, hat and all. Although, if he showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of this shop have been written down here too. Windy Banks Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline, 15th of April, which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all that information scroll on the back of that piece of paper?
Take that!
This is weird. Yes, what brought you to the shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket Miss Lestrade and to Mr. Windybank's pawnbrokery here. Ah. You originally told us that you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Windy Bank's pawnbrokery, and today the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So, you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to such great lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. So in other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. And then, the cane which you unwittingly close exhibits an uncontrovertible contradiction. The Missing Furl. What's a furl? It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane. Ah, the bit that makes the nice clacking sound. Yes, exactly. And Mr. Sholmes is right, it appears to be missing on this cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Sholmes identified the cane. In other words, there's some secret about the cane. I noticed it had any letters on it up here. Look here, Mr. Sato. There are some letters on the handle. Ah, yes, those must be initials. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their names. So Hairlock Sholmes would... I called him Hairlock again. Hairlock would be HS, you mean? That's right. The initials on this cane, obviously... Oh, AG. Why does it feel as though that's not quite right? Because that's not the name he gave us.
Take that!
The contradiction of which I speak, of course, is the initializing. A most astute observation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are EB. Yet in a most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane bearing the initials AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you're wrong. This cane isn't. You said before that you had that cane for years.
Yeah.
So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong?
Aye.
And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer for the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod? Yes, your action belies the truth. Yes, the handle. Let's consider the bare bones of what's happened here. Miss Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking waistcoat, and now a mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name, and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Miss Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he's told us is untrue. So what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. How are we gonna do that? Oh! He's torn the stitches from putting it on. Oh, the seam on the shoulder is coming apart. So it is. A moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said, I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. It sounded a bit like a tiny growl. But now I'm thinking it was the sound of this seam ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. The sleeves are stretched to bursting, and he wouldn't have had a hope of fastening it at the front. If he were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry. So how can we make Mr. Benedict run around? She's not really giving some, whatever. There's, like, it should have been apparent from the second he put this on that it wasn't his then, because it would look ridiculous if it's too small. The split seam, which you evidently, what the fuck is wrong with me, would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle. Ah. Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so baldly lied about your name, and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalogue of untruths has been all for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windybank. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. Yeah, so your whole second topic's gone a bit downhill, hasn't it? To abscond with a redeemed item. Solved. Yep. The council letter. Alright. The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers. Which is a pity, because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, you can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, Professor. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Windybank would never allow you to redeem the item. Or, looking at it another way, if you did know that word, Mr. Windybank would allow you to redeem the item whether it was yours or not. So, that's just on the counter for display, is it? Notelet. Look at this, Mr. Sato. It appears to be a memo that Mr. Windybank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Windybank must make a note of the watchwords his customers give him. Right before their eyes. And in an alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets I might see. Well, that's simple enough. The method is revealed by the notelet in the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Miss Lestrade. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Windybank. When the diligent worker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word Professor on the notelet. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Master plan? Which brings us to the final chapter. Are you quite serious? Good reason. Present the picture postcard. The articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc that was in one of the pockets, which according to Mr. Windybank isn't even worth a penny, and yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? I wonder if perhaps we already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo. Really, could we? Hello, my son. Have you come to deduce with us? We're in the middle of getting this JoJo's character to confess. Could we? Really? I'd better have a thorough look through all the evidence we've collected so far. Well, there's only one thing it can be, is it? Oh! What's this say? Oh, to McGilded. Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck on the reverse side of the disc, look. And a scribbled word or two. It looks like somebody's name. For McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? So is this does this reveal the secrets of some hidden buried treasure?
Take that!
You see, this music box disc tells us all we need to know.
What's that on the back?
It reads, For McGilded. Ah! Ah, Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his loan-mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. Sorry, I bumped the microphone, moving it so my son could sit down on it. You'll probably hear him purring in a second. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature. In fact, he was precisely the right size for that overcoat that you squeezed yourself into. Ugh. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Egbert Benedict. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Ah. To acquire an item deposited by Mr. McGilded. Solved. Elementary. Well, well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances. Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling on my mind. Pray tell, Mrs. Sato. Well, according to what Mr. Windybank told us earlier, today was the final day on which the coat could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Well, today is April 15th, so 2 months ago today would be the 15th of February, sir. That's right, it's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Deposited at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, February 15th is precisely the day on which the omnibus murder took place. And 10:30 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding. So he didn't do it, then? And the suggestive is not the word, because he couldn't have been checking this in at the same time, but he was there. Is this actually McGilded? Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose, however. Oh, I must insist you hand over the music box disc now. It would be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box. Ugh, what do I do? Absolutely not. There are some things a man must protect at all cost. This may very well be one of those things. Then again, may not. Mr. Windybank, this is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I'd have to take my own life. Mr. Windybank, no! Alright, that's enough. Inspector Gregson. Inspector? That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines. So we got here as fast as we could. Now what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise me, you're here at last. I was moments away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment.
It would seem you have the upper hand.
Right, you lot have got some explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty argy-bargy. Petty? Mr. Windybank was very nearly met with his end. Yeah, by his own gun, as far as I can tell.
Oh dear.
And the whole of Britain could meet with its end if I don't get to the bottom of the case I'm supposed to be working on.
What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Spare no detail, Gregson.
I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's got nothing to do with you lot. Yet. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station.
But of course, Inspector.
He's getting away! After him, lads! Whistle the beat officer, too. Sir. I can't run, of course. I've got some chips here. Wouldn't be right, would it? There's been a spate of thefts at pawn shops around here recently, so we fitted emergency buttons underneath all the counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble.
Oh, Inspector, I was very worried there for a while. Very worried indeed.
Now then, Mr. Permanently in mourning.
Oh, yes?
I'll be taking whatever it is of Mr. McGilded's down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over.
Oh, yes, of course.
No! Don't give it to him! It's mine, it is. It's mine.
I'm sorry, miss.
But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now.
As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to capitulate. It's all yours, Inspector.
Good.
And so we handed over McGilded's discs to Inspector Gregson, and were summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. Well, I guess we did it, lads. We saved the city again. My goodness, all in a day's work. So who's gonna get murdered, do you think, then? Because, you know, like, someone's gotta be.